Achieving any goal isn't about hoping things will work out or wishing for better luck. It's about following a set of principles that brings you closer to the results you want. Over the years, I've developed a 5-step process that will take you from where you are to where you want to be, no matter what your goal is. These steps are simple, but don't mistake simple for easy. They require discipline, focus, and persistence. But if you follow them, I guarantee you'll get closer to your goals than you ever imagined. How much money? What kind of success? Without specificity, without being clear about what you want, you'll find yourself chasing after vague ideas and never quite reaching them. Clarity is the foundation of all success. It's like setting a target. If you don't know exactly what the target looks like, how can you hit it? You can't. You'll miss every time. So the first thing you need to do is get crystal clear on your goal. Not just in general terms, but in specific, measurable terms. Take some time to ask yourself, what exactly do I want? If it's financial freedom, define it. Does that mean you want to earn $100,000 a year? $500,000. Or maybe it's not about the money, but about the lifestyle. Do you want to work less and spend more time with your family? What does that look like? How many hours a week do you want to work? How much free time do you want to have? The clearer you can be about your goal, the more power you give yourself to achieve it. Once you've got that clarity, you need to visualize it. Close your eyes and see yourself in possession of that goal. Picture what your life looks like once you've achieved it. What are you doing? How are you feeling? Who are you with? This mental picture becomes the blueprint for your success. Your mind starts to work toward what it can clearly see. What the mind can visualize, it can bring to reality. But if the picture is blurry, if the goal is vague, your mind has nothing to aim for. Years ago, I met a young man who came to one of my seminars. He was ambitious, full of energy, but he was all over the place. He told me he wanted to be rich, but when I asked him how much money he wanted to make, he didn't have an answer. He hadn't thought about it. He just knew he wanted more. I told him, you've got to define that. You can't hit a target you can't see. So he went home and did just that. He wrote down a number, $200,000 by the end of the year. And you know what happened? Once he got clear on that number, he started making decisions that aligned with that goal. He focused his energy, his time, and his resources on opportunities that would bring him closer to that $200,000 mark. And by the end of the year, he hit it. That's the power of clarity. So if you haven't already, sit down and write out your goal in detail. Be specific. Be clear. The more specific you are, the more focused you'll be. And the more focused you are, the faster you'll make progress. And once you have clarity, the second step is to create a plan. A goal without a plan is just a dream. It's not real until you've mapped out the steps to get there. Too often, people set a goal and stop there. They say, I want to lose 20 pounds, or I want to double my income, but they never take the time to figure out how they're going to make it happen. And without a plan, you're just wandering around hoping for the best. A plan is like a roadmap. It shows you the path from where you are to where you want to be. And here's the thing. Your plan doesn't have to be perfect. You don't need to have every single step figured out before you start. In fact, if you wait until you have every step figured out, you'll never begin. The beauty of a plan is that it evolves. You adjust it as you go. But what's important is that you have a starting point, a framework that gives you direction. Think of it like this. When you decide to take a road trip across the country, you don't need to know every single turn from the moment you start. You just need to know the main highways, the general route, and then you can adjust for traffic, weather, or unexpected detours as you drive. But you still need that initial map to get started. So once you've got clarity on your goal, the next question is, how do I get there? Break it down into smaller steps. Let's say your goal is to lose 20 pounds. Instead of focusing on the big number, create a plan where you lose 1 or 2 pounds a week. Ask yourself, what changes do I need to make in my diet? How often will I exercise? What resources do I need to help me stay on track? Do I need a trainer, a workout buddy, or a meal plan? Get specific with your plan, just like you did with your goal. The key to a good plan is that it's actionable and realistic. Too often, people make grand plans that are impossible to stick with. They say, I'm going to work out 2 hours every day, give up all sugar, and run a marathon by the end of the month. But that's not sustainable. A plan needs to be something you can follow consistently over time. It's better to start small and build momentum than to set yourself up for burnout by doing too much too soon. Maybe your goal is to start a business. Well, how do you turn that dream into reality? Start with the basics. What kind of business do you want to create? Who are your customers? What do you need to learn before you can launch? Break it down step by step. First, maybe you research your market. Then you create a business plan. Then you look into securing funding or saving money. It doesn't matter how small the steps seem, as long as they move you forward. When I was starting out, I didn't know every step to becoming successful, but I did know that I had to keep learning and improving. So I created a plan to read a certain number of books each month. I set aside time to meet with mentors, and I made sure to apply what I learned every day. My plan wasn't perfect, and I adjusted it as I grew, but it gave me the structure I needed to stay focused. Now remember, flexibility is key. Life happens. Things don't always go according to plan, and that's okay. If something doesn't work out, you adjust. You revise the plan, you try a different approach, but you don't give up on the goal. That's why it's so important to review your plan regularly. Set aside time each week to check in. Are you making progress? Do you need to adjust your actions? Sometimes you'll need to pivot. Maybe a new opportunity presents itself, or maybe you realize you need to learn a new skill to move forward. Whatever it is, be open to adapting, but always keep your eye on the goal. Next, the fourth step is accountability. This is something most people overlook, but it's crucial if you want to stay on track. When you're accountable to someone else, whether it's a friend, a mentor, or a coach, you're far more likely to follow through on your commitments. Why? Because accountability creates a sense of responsibility. It adds a layer of external pressure that keeps you moving forward, even when you don't feel like it. Here's the thing about goals. It's easy to make promises to yourself, but it's just as easy to break them. You tell yourself you'll start working on your goal tomorrow, but tomorrow comes and you put it off again. When no one is watching, it's easy to let yourself off the hook. But when you've got someone holding you accountable, someone who's expecting you to show up and deliver, you're far less likely to quit. Let me tell you about a time when accountability made a huge difference, Mel. I was working on a major project and I knew it was going to take months of consistent effort to see it through. I didn't want to risk getting distracted or losing focus, so I enlisted the help of a mentor. Every week, we'd sit down and review my progress. Just knowing that I had to report to someone else kept me on track. I didn't want to show up empty-handed, so I pushed myself to make progress every single week. Now, accountability doesn't have to be formal. You don't need to hire a coach or find a mentor if that's not an option. You can simply find a friend or a colleague who's working on their own goals, and you hold each other accountable. Set up a system where you check in regularly, share your progress, and encourage each other to stay on track. And if you can't find someone to hold you accountable, hold yourself accountable. One of the best ways to do this is by tracking your progress. Keep a journal, make a checklist, or create a habit tracker, whatever works for you. But make sure you're keeping yourself honest. When you can see your progress or lack thereof in black and white, it's a powerful motivator to keep going. Remember, accountability keeps you moving when your motivation fades. It adds structure to the process and prevents you from falling off track. So, after you've gained clarity, created a plan, and started taking action, make sure you've got a system in place to stay accountable. Now, the final step to achieving any goal is persistence. This is the step that separates those who succeed from those who fall short. Most people give up too soon. They set a goal, they make a plan, they take action. But when things get tough, when they hit that first roadblock or face their first setback, they throw in the towel. But persistence is what turns dreams into reality. It's the willingness to keep going, no matter how hard it gets. Persistence is what separates the winners from the quitters. It's the ability to keep going, to keep pushing, even when things get tough, even when the progress seems slow, or when setbacks appear. Most people don't fail because their goals are too big, or because they're not capable. They fail because they give up too soon. They give up at the first sign of difficulty. They let temporary obstacles become permanent barriers. But persistence is what pushes you through those tough times. How many people do you know who started something, maybe with all the excitement and energy in the world, but then they hit a rough patch and stopped? They never made it to the other side. Now, what if they had just kept going for another week, another month, another year? What if they had pushed just a little bit harder? Success doesn't come to those who try once or twice and give up. It comes to those who stick with it, those who are willing to fail, learn from their failures, and try again. Look at Colonel Sanders. He wasn't an overnight success. In fact, he didn't start KFC until he was in his 60s. Before that, his life was full of setbacks and failures. He worked as a farmhand, a streetcar conductor, a railroad fireman, and even had a law practice that failed. At one point, He was running a small service station in Kentucky where he served his now famous fried chicken. But here's the kicker. When he tried to franchise his recipe, he was rejected over 1,000 times. That's right, 1,000 times. Now imagine that. Colonel Sanders, a man in his 60s, with very little to his name, driving across the country, knocking on doors, trying to sell his chicken recipe, and getting turned down over and over again. Most people would have given up after a handful of rejections, but not the Colonel. He believed in his product, and he was persistent. He kept going no matter how many times he was rejected. Finally, after years of persistence, one restaurant owner said, yes. That was the beginning of what would become a global brand. KFC now operates in over 100 countries, but none of it would have happened if Colonel Sanders hadn't kept going after those 1,000 rejections. That's what persistence looks like. It's the determination to keep moving forward, even when the odds seem stacked against you. Colonel Sanders didn't let failure define him. He used each rejection as a stepping stone to success. He didn't quit just because things weren't working out right away. He kept knocking on doors, adjusting his approach, and eventually found the breakthrough he needed. And that's the power of persistence, staying committed even when everything seems to be telling you to quit. The key to persistence is to understand that setbacks are not permanent. They're temporary. They're part of the process. Every great success story is filled with failures, roadblocks, and disappointments. But the difference between those who succeed and those who don't is that the successful ones keep going. They view setbacks as lessons, as opportunities to grow. They don't let them stop them. They keep moving forward. Here's a little secret about persistence. The moment you feel like giving up, the moment when everything seems the hardest, that's usually when you're closest to a breakthrough. Most people quit right before they're about to succeed. It's like the story of the man who was digging for gold. He'd been digging for weeks, months even, without finding anything. He was exhausted, frustrated, and ready to give up. So he put down his shovel and walked away. But what he didn't realize was that he was just 3 feet away from hitting the gold. 3 feet. If he had just kept digging for one more day, he would have struck it rich. But he quit too soon. That's why persistence is so important, because you never know how close you are to success. You never know when that breakthrough is going to come. So how do you develop persistence? How do you keep going when the going gets tough? The first thing you need to do is stay connected to your why. Why did you set this goal in the first place? What's at stake for you? When you're clear on your why, when you understand the deeper reason behind your goal, it gives you the fuel to keep going, even when you don't feel like it. Maybe your goal is to provide a better life for your family. Maybe it's to prove to yourself that you can do it. Maybe it's to live a healthier, longer life. Whatever it is, keep that reason in front of you at all times. When things get hard, remind yourself why you're doing it. That will give you the strength to keep going. Another important part of persistence is to break your goal down into smaller milestones. If you're always focused on the big goal, it can feel overwhelming, and you might lose motivation. But when you break it down into smaller, more manageable steps, it becomes easier to keep going. Celebrate those small wins. Each time you hit a milestone, no matter how small, give yourself credit. That progress keeps you motivated, and it reminds you that you're moving in the right direction. But here's the thing. You do need to be flexible when it comes to persistence. Being persistent doesn't mean being stubborn. It doesn't mean you keep doing the same thing over and over again, even when it's not working. Persistence means staying committed to the goal, but being flexible in your approach. If one strategy isn't working, try another. If you hit a wall, find a way around it. Be willing to adjust your plan, but never give up on the goal. I'm telling you, there were plenty of times in my career when things didn't go according to plan. I remember early on when I was trying to get my speaking business off the ground, and I ran into one obstacle after another. I had financial setbacks. I had speaking engagements that didn't go well. I had people tell me that I wouldn't make it. But I kept going. I adjusted my approach when needed. I learned from my mistakes, and I stayed focused on the goal. And because I was persistent, eventually, things started to fall into place. That's the power of persistence. Now, I want to leave you with one final thought about persistence. Persistence isn't just about grit and determination. It's also about faith. It's about having faith in yourself, faith in the process, and faith that if you keep doing the right things, the results will come. You might not see the results right away, but if you trust the process and stay committed, they will come. Have faith that your hard work will pay off, that your efforts will be rewarded, that faith is what will carry you through the tough times. So, the first thing you need is clarity. Know exactly what you want. Define your goal in precise, measurable terms. Second, create a plan. Break your goal down into actionable steps and create a roadmap to get there. Third, take action. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Just start. Even small actions taken consistently will lead to progress. Fourth, stay accountable. Find someone or something to hold you responsible for staying on track. And finally, be persistent. Keep going, no matter how many obstacles you face. Stay committed to the goal and don't give up. These 5 steps aren't just principles, they're a way of life. If you follow them, there's no limit to what you can achieve. Whether it's a personal goal, a financial goal, a health goal, or a career goal, these steps will take you from where you are to where you want to be. So, get clear, make a plan, take action, stay accountable, and be persistent. Success is within your reach. You just have to go after it.